Hey guys, welcome to Joygasm, where we chat about video games, movies, and pop culture. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. He's Steve, Xbox Live I'll just say Toaster 360 again, but it's not. It is in fact Stevavitch.
Yeah.
And we are thinking different today. What day is today? Saturday, September 15, 2018. And what episode is this, Steve?
Episode, what, 88?
That's correct.
There we go.
88. And we're feeling great. So this episode, we're going to be focusing mostly on just the Apple press conference that took place earlier this week.
Our hardly ever talked about tech segment.
Yes. Just to let you all know that it is alive and kicking. It's still there. It is not on life support.
Not just about Russ's light bulbs.
No. Although we could make it about my light bulbs, too.
Or his toothbrush.
Or my toothbrush. Yes.
Yes, Russ.
How you doing, Steve?
You know, I'm doing okay. It's been a fast week. You know, we were a bit rainy, soggy this week.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's blue skies, but then all of a sudden we'll have like water balloon size rain just come in for like 5 minutes, completely just drench everything, even have some minor flooding, and then it just goes away, and now we're back to crazy, muggy, hot, sweaty nonsense. Yeah.
It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. No, but, you know, the week was all right. I got some Netflix in. I watched a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, what'd you watch?
I got my, the second disc in 24, season 4.
Season 4.
Season numero 4.
I don't remember how many seasons they made of the original 24. I know I got through most of the seasons.
Did you, Russ?
But I think there are 2, maybe 3 that I did not watch.
It's still good, Russ.
Oh, I'm sure it has aged like a fine wine.
It is an absolute fantastic show.
It is.
My goodness.
I remember watching that show back in 2007. I binge watched the crap out of that show.
Man, I don't know how people could survive through the commercials because, golly. I mean, I guess the commercials gave you some sort of breather or a break. Like, oh, goodness, I need to go get some popcorn or a drink of water or go take a pee. But I am definitely enjoying binge watching. I mean, straight through, it's incredible. I think I watched 3 episodes in one night.
Yeah,
and still got to sleep somehow. But
it's crazy because that show has Kiefer Sutherland, who plays the main protagonist. But before he did that show, most of the roles that he did were kind of like more villain antagonist roles. And so it was a pretty big departure to watch him kind of jump the fence, so to speak, and play a protagonist. But I think given that particular role in 24, it's perfect because his character, Jack Bauer, just does anything just about to get the job done kind of thing. And so I feel like he can kind of tap into that well a little bit, but then mix it with this other formula. And so I think it's just great.
Yeah. And then it fell off a little bit. Not 24 per se, but I decided to get the second Ninja Turtle movie.
Oh, gosh.
Out of the Shadows.
That movie is not what the first movie was like.
No, this is like from the new generation Ninja Turtles.
Oh, the current generation.
The current generation, but the second one that came out.
Even that one, like... Okay. I'll let you go ahead and say your piece, and I'll come in after you.
Okay, it sucked. I knew it was going to suck before I got it, but I thought, I should probably just see it. You know, we talk about all this stuff. Anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, give it a watch. And I'm trying to be kind, and I'm like, maybe it's going to be good. You know, hey, maybe it's going to be better than the first one. You know, you never really know.
Yeah.
No.
Not one thing that you liked.
No, I didn't like Bebop and Rocksteady one bit. I didn't like Krang. I didn't like Shredder. I don't even think there was any real fighting scenes like ninja, karate chop, martial arts stuff. Man, I keep on thinking about how the live action Ninja Turtle movie, the first one that came out way back when.
Oh, such a classic.
I mean, you had, people slicing and dicing. You had Donatello using his bow. You had Michelangelo's nunchucking everywhere. You even had a little nunchuck contest with the foot soldier and everything. I mean, it was like it was a Ninja Turtle martial arts movie. Kind of like a kung fu movie, except it was Ninja Turtles, and it was funny.
Right you are.
And original. And this is like, okay, yeah, there's some explosions, and there's some action and stuff, but there's no real, like, martial arts fighting, what you would expect from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And you never saw this movie in the theater, I take it.
No. I mean, Megan Fox is in it, and she's foxy, of course, but
she's a tall glass of water, that one. Yeah, when I saw, so the first one, did you see the first one of the current generation?
Yeah, you told me to go see it.
Yeah.
And I saw it with a friend, and actually my friend thought it was okay, and he asked me what I thought, and I was like, you really want to know? He's like, yeah. And then I told him, it's like, you'd ruin the movie for me. I'm like, sorry, you asked. I told you don't ask me that question.
So the first one that came out, I thought was a decent film. Like, it was nowhere near as good as like the original 1989 live action classic, but there were certain things about it where I was like, okay, like I can see how they were trying to get some of the spirit of the TMNT in there, and I was looking forward to seeing where they would take it and what was going on with it. The second one though was just, it really, I was excited initially because it had Bebop and Rocksteady being advertised. And that was the missed opportunity from The Secret of the Ooze, which was the follow-up to the 1989 classic. Right. But they, if you recall, they didn't have Bebop and Rocksteady. They ended up having some random snapping turtle and some werewolf-looking thing that were like the mutants that Shredder made, and Shredder turned into Super Shred. I mean, it was just so goofy from left field. You're just like, you have all this wonderful creations that you could have leveraged, and you didn't use any of it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Who's controlling this whole thing?
Yeah.
But in this one, the current one, I liked the look of Krang. And I actually thought his voice was pretty cool. I mean, it was obviously different than the cartoon voice, but to me, that's okay. Like, I was like, okay, I can get behind that. That's cool. But there wasn't enough like backstory and purpose and everything. Like you find Shredder being all of a sudden into Dimension X, and he's there for like 30 seconds and that's it, and then goes back. But there wasn't...
The Technodrome was assembling, and then it was gone. You never really saw the full Technodrome. Like and that was like the way the whole movie took place. It never really developed into anything.
Right.
It was like, why bring it out if it's like a quarter of a movie that you're expounding into an hour and a half?
Absolutely, yeah. What they should have done, in my opinion, is they should have had the Technodrome actually successfully come together, but not in the way that they did it, where it was like assembling from the sky. It's like, no, you guys, too many films these days are having some sort of like occurrence that's going on in the sky. Like the whole Technodrome thing was that it was this very hush underground thing. Like Krang was all about keeping a low profile. He wasn't about like having this big entrance into Earth and everything else.
That was more Shredder's thing.
Yeah, that was Shredder's thing. So, I mean, I would, for one, would have loved to have seen the Technodrome all of a sudden materialize, watch it kind of roll through these kind of underground...
subterranes or whatever.
Yeah, caverns or whatever, or like it drills its own way. And of course, that was one of the big things, was that Shredder always used those kind of like, what were they called? My mind's a bit cobwebby when it comes to all the different names, but what was the name of that drill? Like,
yeah, it was kind of the thing. It was kind of like the Underminer from The Incredibles in a way.
Yeah,
it had that kind of drill.
What the heck was that called?
I forgot, but I remember in the cartoon that when the thing reversed, like went away, magma from the earth like oozed up and then dried.
Yeah,
so it kind of covered their tracks.
Yeah. Oh, now apparently you have a doorbell ringing on your phone.
Sorry about that.
But what was that thing called? Like, we used to know it. We used to know all those.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Well, anyway, I wish they would have shown that, because that would have been a great opportunity to be able to showcase Shredder coming out of that. And yeah, I think I don't know if they use the same actor from the first Ninja Turtles film from this newer series or not.
I remember.
Or if they changed him out. But yeah, My favorite is still the actor who played the original Shredder in the 1989 classic. Like, I mean, obviously that guy is a lot older now. They wouldn't be able to use him, but his look overall was like, yeah, that's Shredder.
Yeah, he had the martial arts. He had he talked the talk and walked the walk.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have loved. I mean, in this film too, like I did like there was kind of a battle royale scene where the Ninja Turtles are fighting Bebop and Rocksteady. Like, weren't they like in the cargo jet or something? And then they fly out of the back and they fall down, and then like Rocksteady's in one of the tanks or something, and it's going down a river. I can't remember. Like, I remember like that whole action sequence just from a visual standpoint. I was like, hey, this is actually cool. Like, I like the way this looks.
Well, yeah, basically they're transporting something back that they needed to bring the Technodrome back into this dimension. And of course, Bebop and Rocksteady, they're buff and clumsy, and so there's a lot of knocking stuff around. And Bebop decides to, or maybe I don't know, one of them decides to start shooting one of the guns on the tank, the small tank that they were driving. Of course, you know it punches a hole in the air in the jet, and the jet starts to disintegrate, and whatever and whatnot. They all fall out and into the river, and somehow they all survive, including the tank, and then whatever and whatnot. So
yeah. It's been a while since I've watched the whole film. I don't recall too many other details. I do remember, though, I did not like the casting choice for Casey Jones.
Oh, that was terrible.
He did not embody the soul or persona of Casey Jones at all. Especially, once again, going back to the 1989 film. Perfect Casey Jones right there. Like, it was just awesome. So much to love about that original film. But yeah, it was a bit of a mess with this second one. And so I don't know if they're going to make a third one or not, which again is just unfortunate because I, for one, really want to see other characters from that world become, kind of a staple of the silver screen, like Usagi Yojimbo. Who doesn't want to see him? Of
course.
There's all kinds of different characters that they made. Like, even Baxter Stockman, they had, Baxter that was in this movie that you just saw, but he didn't really he didn't instill a lot of what made Baxter Baxter. I feel like that was almost a disservice to Baxter Stockman because he made the Mousers, and he himself turned into a fly, I believe it was, if I remember all my Ninja Turtle mythos correctly. So yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of that going on. It's funny that you watched that movie though, because I didn't watch any Ninja Turtle movies, but I listened. I came across the original, I was with you when I found this. The theme song to the 1987.
Yeah, and I had to close my ears, hum, stomp, something like that, because that song gets stuck in my head, and then I can't stop thinking about it.
I started listening to it on one of the days this past week when I was coming home from work, and it is such a catchy song. I just started
headbanging, Russ.
No, but I was listening to it and I was totally singing along after a while. And what was interesting was that the clip I found has both the singing part, and then it also has the ending music after like one of the cartoons is over. And it was, I mean, literally for an hour and a half driving home, I just had that on repeat. And it was it was really fun because that was one of my favorite cartoons growing up as a kid. And I'm sorry, but like out of all the different iterations of the Ninja Turtle cartoon theme song, that's still my favorite.
Between that and It's a Small World After All,
I'll choose Ninja Turtles every time.
So that gets me thinking. See, I have the first Justice League, Batman versus Superman. I have on my Netflix.
Why?
So, and that's the thing. I'm like, we always talk about all this stuff. I should just watch it.
You're just a glutton for punishment.
Yes, I know. So I think I'm going to take that one off because I already don't like Ben Affleck, and with the recent news of Henry Cavill or Cavill, I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
I think it's Cavill. I want to say it's Cavill.
So, with him departing from Superman or that heading in that direction, I'm like, I don't want to give that movie any kind of more credit than it's worth. I mean,
honestly, I refuse to watch that movie just because of the casting that was done for Batman. I was not a fan. Like, I think Ben Affleck is a good actor in other roles, but I don't think he fits at all with Bruce Wayne or Batman. So, and plus, I mean, just the Zack Snyder thing. I don't like a lot of what he envisioned for the world of how these characters live and everything else. But yeah, interesting, Steve. You may not want to watch that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take it off. I really don't want to. I mean, yeah, not till they make it better. Who knows when that's gonna happen? I just don't. Life's too short to get aggravated for movie studios ruining your superhero favorites.
I totally agree. And the Henry Cavill thing, I checked online today. There's no new news about the whole thing, which I don't know. It sounds like it's almost kind of like a marketing ploy. Like they wanted to test the waters to see how much of a fan following Henry Cavill has with the character of Superman, because there's no definitive way either side of like, oh, is he staying or is he going? Like no one has come forth and said, yep, it's official. Like his agent's like, oh, well, you never know. And then like even Henry Cavill, which by the way, his agent doesn't sound like that.
How does it sound, Russ?
Actually, it's she, and I have no idea.
Okay.
Henry Cavill posted some cryptic Twitter video. I don't know if you saw this or not, but like he has that song that dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
But then that type of song, instead of like how the notes hit, it's dogs. So you hear a dun 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 dun. And like he has like a t-shirt and it says what was it, Krypton Team Lift or Lifting Team, I think is what it was, something like that. And he has this toy of himself as Superman that's still in the box, and he's just kind of staring like expressionless into the camera, and you see him like move the box into frame to the barking, so it's like woo, 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 woo. And then it goes back down out of frame, and that's it. Like that's all he did. And then like he wrote in there, it was like, it's been an exciting day, and then hashtag Superman. And
I wonder if that's just a new line of toys that was coming out or something.
I don't know. I have a feeling. I think that there is some talking going on, some negotiating. I think that especially as Henry Cavill is becoming more and more well known as an actor, because everything he's done so far, everybody really likes him in. I think that there's probably some negotiations and some talking that, with contracts and everything else. At this point, I think it would be just a disaster for DC and Warner Brothers if they were to just show Henry the door, and then all of a sudden now you have both the characters of Batman and Superman that have to be replaced, but yet you still have the budding cast of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and the rest of them like for Flash and Cyborg, that sort of thing. I mean, it's just gonna fragment the world even more. Like they're trying to build this world up. That's its own little ball of wax. We should probably do a Patreon bonus episode where we just focus mainly on what's going on with that. I think that would make some sense to be able to just, if for nothing else, for us to be able to vent out just what we have noticed.
There you go.
What else have been up to you? What else have you been up to?
That's been about it. I mean, I still continuing with the mobile games and haven't got anything new yet. I noticed there was a new Forza Horizon 4 commercial out that I posted on Facebook.
Oh, I have yet to see it. I will need to check it out.
It's a little more humorous than, heart pumping like the Forza Horizon 3 commercial that was out, which I also posted on Facebook.
Good job.
But man, I'm just inching a little bit. I definitely, with these new games that are coming out, might be getting the new system here looking like it. I'm trying to hold off for the holidays because I know the price is going to drop by
by $50 at least.
50 if not 70.
Yeah.
So if I can hold off and buy it then, most likely I will. I mean, it's mid-September for crying out loud.
It is indeed, Steve.
So, it's a couple months away, Russ.
And I might be in that same boat. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how everything goes, but
You might be in that same galleon.
I might be, or that same sloop. You never know.
Not the same brig, though, Russ. Don't be in this.
No. So you left a stain on that ship.
Yeah. Coffee stain.
I was going to say vomit stain.
That too. From the coffee. From the grog. Yeah. What about you, Russ?
What about me?
It's probably just Spider-Man. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, you're a soothsayer, Steve. Fortune freaking teller.
Let's see. Is Russ online? Nope. Must be PlayStation.
It's funny. I do have people on Xbox who like they've been making comments like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm on the other system. I'll be back in a bit." Russ, right? I'm all play Spider-Man. Leave me alone. Yeah. No, I've been playing Spider-Man, as you so rightfully said. And it's a fun game. I gotta say, there's a lot to like about the game so far. I'm taking my time with it.
No.
I'm not wanting to burn through the main mission, which is good anyway, because I want to be able to learn the combat system a bit more. I want to be able to learn about how to be able to leverage the modifications you can do with the suit.
Yes.
And I have found that prior to me taking the time to learn those things, that there were several pockets, if you will.
Okay.
Where I was not activating certain things, and that was doing my gameplay experience a disservice because
You're
they were inactive.
Doing yourself dirty.
Yes. Yes.
As the kids say.
But it was fun. I mean, like just going through, having fun with the landmarks. Again, this is not a spoiler. And I'm going to make a point to not like give away any spoilers just because the game is very new. We don't want any people upset out there. No. But one of the things that you can do is take pictures of various landmarks throughout New York. And so what's a lot of fun, and again, this has already been published on like IGN and others. But there are certain buildings, such as the Avengers Tower, which used to be Stark Tower. So you're swinging, all of a sudden you see it, you're like, wow, and it's really tall, really big. No Avengers, though. I don't see any Avengers.
Don't suppose they paid any tribute to the Spider-Man 1 initial movie poster where the two towers are reflected in Spider-Man's eyes, do they?
I have no idea. That's a good question. They actually have a number of things that they have placed in there. One of which is the Ghostbusters firehouse. Oh yes, I was swinging around.
Didn't I mention that the other night when I was playing it with you?
I don't remember.
I was like, man, that was like the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Was it from the game? I remember you saying that, but I don't remember if it was from the game or if it was from something else that we were looking at.
That was from the game, Russ. That was part of the 4% that I achieved.
Well, I also found Doctor Strange's building. Oh, from if you recall where he resides with that huge stained glass circle window thing at the top. I found that. So there's quite a few things, and in addition to obviously all of the real world landmarks that New York is known for.
Well, then that kind of begs the question: maybe sometime in the future, the developers might make a Avengers version of this game. With the same like engine sort of thing. I mean, they already got the city, they already got the building, they already kind of have the fighting system down and whatnot.
The only problem with that, Steve, is that Crystal Dynamics, Crystal and Enix are currently working on some sort of title that sounds very much like what you're describing. So I think
interesting.
The chances of something like that happening, at least in the near future, is very slim.
All right. Well, it's cool either way.
But they did a nice job on the building. Yeah. We'll give them that. Also, like with just the swinging, like the web swinging, that sort of thing.
Do they have Stark Tower?
So I don't think they have Stark Tower. I saw Avengers Tower, and I think Avengers Tower used to be Stark Tower. It got turned into the Avengers Tower.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
So there are various abilities. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of the Batman Arkham series. We talked about this before, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually like how that ability tree thing works. And it also applies to how you swing through the city. And as you level up, you increase your strength, you increase your speed. And that's not only for fighting and running, it's also for swinging, which is great because I think at first when you're playing and you're exploring the area, you have that like sense of wonderment of, oh, what's this? Oh, this is so new. And then once you've discovered everything and you've been kind of doing missions for a while, a little bit of that wonderment begins to kind of fade a bit. And now you're just trying to get from one location to the other. It's still really fun to be able to swing around and that sort of thing. But I think it makes sense how they slowly over time, as you level up, my Spider-Man's up to level 20 now, Steve. So, yeah, just being able to like have a faster kind of swinging experience is cool. Also, there are abilities that help to kind of almost like slingshot you into the air. So you're almost like instantly at like close to max speed or whatever. And then you're swinging and whatnot. It's really cool. So a lot of fun there. There's still, like I said, quite a bit for me to be able to get through, and that's fine because the sheer amount of side story. I mean, they have like a Black Cat side story, and they have landmarks, and they have the backpacks, and they have the pollution stuff, and they have an absolute ton of these side things to do. Like I came across a homeless man who has a love for pigeons, and his pigeons flew away, and so now I have to try and track down the pigeons, the homing pigeons that he lost.
That's a cool side quest.
So then the pigeons are flying, and I'm having to like swing after it and try and catch it. That's pretty fun.
Catch them in a big spider web.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. So I mean, once I beat the game, and again, I don't know if you want to be able to play through and beat it yourself, but I would like to be able to have one particular episode. Maybe we do it for our Patreon listeners, but I'd like to be able to have like a full on review with spoilers, just to be able to like analyze the whole thing. And I think that'd be a fun thing to do because the game is really fun. I don't know at this point where my final score is going to be, obviously, because I haven't beaten the game.
Well,
but
yeah, Russ.
I don't know. I'm curious to see where it's going to fall in terms of Game of the Year contender. We'll have to see.
Did you ever get to swoop down close to the water and see how good the water?
I fell into the water, actually.
And can Spider-Man swim?
Yes, he can.
Okay.
He can swim, but the problem is that once you get out there, there's nowhere for you to really shoot your webbing. It's not like I'm swimming and I just want to, hey, I want to get out of the water because, it makes sense. There's no buildings.
Right. Well, that's kind of, when they released, I forgot about the L in release there, Russ. Released the prior Spider-Man game, he could just web sling anywhere. Like even if he was above all the buildings and would still want to web swing, it was like, throwing his web up to the moon or whatever and still swinging. So it makes sense. But
yeah, he's attaching his webbing to the sky map.
But does the water look good though, Russ? We were saying the water looked good from far away, but up close.
I still think the water looks good. I think that, if I were to be like super nitty gritty critical of it, I would say they probably, if I were to compare the water up close to like the water of Batman Arkham Knight up close, I think the water of Arkham Knight is better. But it's not like there's some huge disparaging difference between the two. The water in Spider-Man is very nice. So, yeah. Especially considering too, like you really don't hang out. Like that's the thing. In Arkham Knight, you were actively like gliding over big parts of water that was in that kind of harbor ocean bay thing versus this game where like it's more kind of like just set dressing. Like you can kind of get over to it and you can fall into it if you want or whatever, but it's really not like an overarching part like say Sea of Thieves. Like Sea of Thieves, the water is like gorgeous. Well, it makes sense because you're on a boat and you're like, that is the world, is the ocean. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say, but I don't, like I said, I don't want to give any spoilers away. Needless to say, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a really fun game. When I come home from work, it's like, I want to play some more Spider-Man. I want to see what's going on.
Hi, honey, here's your day. Don't talk to me. Go play Spider-Man. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. I just, maybe not that harsh, but still, I want to.
Hi, Daddy. You want to play with me?
I'm sorry, honey. Daddy must play Spider-Man for at least an hour. He'll be back.
I don my Spider-Man fatigues. What's interesting is, as a side note, Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games, he has been a very big, I don't know what you would say. He's a big fan of the Spider-Man game. He's a big fan of Spider-Man, but he's really kind of gone above and beyond in terms of just the countdown to when this game was released. And he's been doing some entertaining antics. Like he kind of started doing this thing where he takes his shirt off and he wears a Spider-Man mask, just the mask itself, and runs around. And it's kind of the gag because, the guy's, he's a gamer, nerd, geeky guy, whatever.
Doesn't have the body of Spider-Man.
No, not at all. But that's one of the endearing things about the whole thing. And it's, I mean, kudos to him for being brave and doing that sort of thing. But it's turned into like actually part of the movement that is the promotion of this game. And Insomniac Games actually created a character after Greg Miller's Spider-Man persona. So you can find Greg Miller in the game with like not wearing a shirt, with the mask and stuff. It's really, really cool. In fact, I think I follow Greg on Instagram, and he was posting up there something about how it's very surreal to find that you are now immortalized into not just any video game, but one that's like a AAA Spider-Man first-party title for the Sony PlayStation. So, yeah, happy for the guy. I mean, like I said, like that kind of thing, you don't know how it's going to play out. But, I mean, Greg has such a charismatic personality anyway. It's like, yeah, the dude can pull it off easily.
You mentioning Instagram remind me of one thing that happened this week. It has nothing to do with games. But I was watching Jay Leno's Garage car show.
Yeah.
And he was interviewing the founder and CEO of Koenigsegg, which is a Swedish hypercar. It's the fastest road-going car in the world. And so I didn't know his name. I had to rewind it a couple times because I'm not used to hearing Swedish names.
Yeah.
And so I found him on Facebook, and I only saw he had 490 friends and followers.
This is the owner of the company?
Correct. And so I thought at first maybe it's a fan site, and it might still be a fan site, but it has where he went to high school, it has what college he went to, he has his job. I'm like, hey, this person knows an awful lot, or it's the exact person. So I thought, well, I'll just see what happens. So I hit add friend. Couple days, he accepted my friend request.
Well, isn't that
thought,
nice?
Wow, there we go.
This is on Facebook? Yeah. Wow. There you go.
So kind of cool.
Maybe you can befriend the man, and perhaps we'll be able to do a technology segment on the vehicle.
While you continue, I have to show you the car. I know you don't know. I know you can't envision the in the car, so I'm gonna show it to you.
There are so many cars out there, Steve. And while I can identify certain vehicles, when you get into the exotic realm, I think breadth, if you will, of knowledge is very limited to Ferrari, Lamborghini, a little bit of Bugatti, perhaps even, that's how bad it is. I could see the,
Koenigsegg. You if you play Need for Speed and some of these car games, I mean it's in Forza Horizon.
It looks fast just sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very, very fast.
Very nice.
Very fast. It's also over like $1 million, like $1.2 million. No, not 1.3, but
basically money that I will never see in my lifetime. Yes, that's good. All right, well, how about we go ahead and dive into our topic of the day?
That sounds great.
So our topic of the day is the 2018 Apple Press Conference. Just so you know, we have done a very, well, it was live at the time, but we did, I guess a better way of saying it is a real-time recording of us watching and commenting on the entire press conference, which you can find on Patreon. But
real-time, that's not a word you hear much anymore.
You still hear it. I mean, real-time, it's like live streaming, real-time, that sort of thing.
You hear about it when you watch 24. Events happen in real time.
I'm not going to let you T-bone the topic of the day, Steve.
The following takes place between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Sorry. Okay, go.
So, anyway, there were two main segments to the press conference this year, which I was a bit surprised about. One, of course, has to do with the Apple Watch. And the second one has to do with the latest iteration of the iPhone. And I know in the past, they've done press conferences where they tend to include about 4, sometimes even 5 products. And so I was a bit surprised. I would say overall, I guess I'll start with kind of a high level thing here.
Yeah.
Overall, I was not blown away by the show. Like, they didn't have something that they showed off and it was like, whoa, I didn't know they were going to jump into that type of platform or field or whatever. You know, like when they debuted the Apple Watch, it was like, oh, wow, they're getting into watches. You know, they didn't have anything like that this year. Obviously, with the latest iterations, they were able to bump up certain features, introduce some additional features, that sort of thing. And that sort of cycle, it was expected, honestly, because it's in that's the current cycle is like, oh, it's not the Apple iPhone 10, it's the 10s or the Apple Watch Series 4 instead of the Series 3. So overall, though, I mean, it's like on the one hand that they didn't come out with something that was like a brand new product or something that was just like, whoa, I didn't know they were planning on doing that. But at the same time, I found myself thinking about how far we've come with cell phones overall. I mean, a lot of the smart devices of today, they incorporate so many things that I just want in a device like that it's becoming harder and harder. And you and I kind of talked about this a little bit after the show. It's becoming harder and harder to be left wanting just because I don't know what I want anymore. Like before, I knew I wanted a larger screen, or I knew I wanted the ability to be able to see the person I'm talking to on the phone as opposed to just having an audio conversation, that sort of thing. Or I wanted to have Wi-Fi ability, like fast internet speed on my phone. All of these things have been incorporated in. And granted, you know, we talked about this sort of thing too, where like, you know, if they were to go and venture into something like holographic imagery or that sort of thing, that would be really, really cool. But I feel like other than that, like I struggle to, like, if someone were to ask me, well, what exactly do you want them to add to the phone? I'm like, I'd be kind of hard pressed. I suppose if I like were to, you know, whiteboard it out, just do a whiteboarding session and just really brainstorm like what it is I'd still want, I could probably come up with a few things, but they're not so readily apparent. What did you think, Steve?
Well, I thought it was a very streamlined show. It was kind of leaner this time. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because in other press conferences that they've had or at this time every year, they tend to release too many products, and the iPhone is either midway through or it's at the end.
Yeah.
And most of the people there want to see the new iPhone.
Right.
So I thought, for time-wise, I thought it was better planned in that sense. Mm-hmm. Because before, I mean, I think I might buy a watch at some point, but I'm not really that interested. I'm not interested in the HomePod. I'm not interested in the latest, greatest computer. I just want to know about the phone. And that's the same way with about 50% of, or actually 56% of Apple's consumers, is they want to know about the new iPhone. So the watch goes hand in hand with the iPhone. If you have an Apple Watch, you have an Apple iPhone. If you have an iPhone, most likely the watch you're going to get, if you're going to get a smartwatch, is going to be the iWatch. So with those two hand in hand, it makes perfect sense. And I'm glad they didn't really deviate. But at the same time, I thought they could have streamlined it a little bit more, because when they were going through all the features, they reiterated the features of I like 4 or 5 times. Okay, yeah, with the A12 neural chip. So again, A12 neural chip. With this new A12, we got it. Like, okay, you know, I heard it the first time, I heard it the second time, I heard it the third time, the 11th time I got it. You know, so yeah, last time I think they went into some new Apple campus that they're building up. Was supposed to be, you know, high tech and whatnot. Okay.
Are you talking about their main campus?
No, not their main campus. It was a different campus.
Okay.
But if you remember during the show was really long.
Yeah.
I mean, it was long. And it started
Yeah.
going, oh, here's so-and-so to talk about this. Oh, here's so-and-so to talk about that.
Oh,
Like,
I remember
my
that.
Goodness.
Yeah,
Like,
it was a new Apple store of some kind, I think it was, that they were showcasing like how they were doing a makeover of the Apple store itself. Yeah, that was painful. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. So a lot of that stuff, I mean, it's, I don't know about pain. I mean, we really wanted just to see the iPhone. We wanted to get to the good.
We wanted to just see the products. Yeah, and that's a really good point. Is that I do like how they went about it this year with just keeping things much more streamlined, like what you said.
Yeah. Even the videos were more streamlined. I mean, last time they had,
Yeah,
you know, and it could be because this was an S model, not like a new model. So we'll see how they do next year. But I was appreciative of how streamlined they kept it this time.
I really like the intro too. I think that just the whole Mission Impossible theme song with an employee running through the property trying to get this briefcase to the show, and then the entire time you're thinking that, oh, it's probably the latest iPhone or whatever is inside, and it actually ends up being the presentation clicker that they pass back and forth based on who's presenting, that sort of thing. I thought that was just a cute little way to start the show. And it was fun too because it wasn't, you know, Apple in the past, oftentimes they take kind of more of an artsy approach to their intros, or they can kind of struggle with not trying to come across as too pretentious or whatever. And I really liked how in this intro it was made for fun. It was made to be just lighthearted and a little bit silly, that sort of thing. And it's cool. It just set off the right vibe, I would say, for the show. So they started off with the Apple Watch Series 4. And it looks like they had an improved microphone and speaker they talked about. They have the S4 processor, has improved performance. There's a dual-core 64-bit architecture in there, which they were talking about was like 2 times faster than the Series 3. They have the accelerometer gyroscopic improvement where it senses if you fall. You know, that I think that actually, I remember commenting to you about this, about how for the senior citizens, that's a really big deal because that's one of their biggest fears is falling, because they're at their age, their bones are so brittle, and oftentimes most of, or I should say a lot of the calls that these EMT folks get are from people who have fallen over and, you know, broken a hip or broken a femur or whatever it is. So I thought it was cool how this new watch can sense if you fall, and they have it designed where you can automatically contact a loved one if you don't respond to what the little alert on your watch is telling you. That's really great. I mean, I know that for like our grandmother, for example, I think that would be a fantastic thing for her to be able to wear an Apple Watch if she were to fall or something. Be able to have it set up in both the capacity to be able to alert the staff where she lives, but also alert one of us as well to, hey, you know, she's fallen. So then, you know, you just have that response time that's immediate.
Yeah, I think it's cool, but what I stumble on is there's not a lot of senior citizens who want tech or really can wrap their mind around tech. And so you have them have a smartwatch, they got to figure out how to use it. A lot of them don't even want to adapt this tech. They're fine with how life is at this point. And so even if they had the watch, they would have to have the smartphone. So they're getting used to 2 different things. And I think Apple wants their market to be the younger audience because you know, the people who are growing up, they want that consumer base that's growing and growing, not dying and dying in a sense. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but that's the kind of the way it is. So if they're marketing something towards the audience who wants to buy it versus the audience who is kind of forced to have it in a sense, you know what I'm saying?
You're gonna take this, and you're gonna wear it, you're gonna like it.
And the watch is like $300 or $400. I mean, that for one feature for a senior citizen who's hardly text messaging really, or using cameras or bokeh or anything like, you know, that's a lot of money for not a whole lot of use.
Well, but I think that they're not necessarily targeting like our grandmother's generation. I think that they're targeting our parents' generation, because the baby boomer generation is now entering into their 60s. Like, I mean, our parents are in their mid to late 60s already. They are senior citizens. They now qualify to be...
For movie discounts.
Oh, I like that. So I do think that with that particular generation, they have largely adopted a lot of the tech that our generation and generations younger than us have just embraced immediately. You know, like it doesn't even limit itself to the smartphones or watches or whatever, but also, you know, social media, for example. You know, our parents' generation, the baby boomer generation, has fully embraced getting onto Facebook, get onto even Twitter. Instagram, not so much, but I mean, there is that kind of adoption process that's going on. And so I think, at least when it comes to that particular feature, obviously the watch is marketed to everybody, but I do think in terms of that particular feature, if I'm 65 or 70 years old, I'm thinking, you know, that's actually, I like that. Like that would compel me to
like
get it.
that.
Thank you, Joker. The other thing too, of course, overall is that the watch is focusing on health. That has been kind of one of the staples of the watch ever since they first debuted Series 1. And they have some new things on there, like being able to monitor low blood pressure, the ECG thing. And so
ECG or EKG?
There's an EKG and there's an ECG. And I have no idea. You know what was interesting? In my notes, I initially wrote EKG, but then as they were talking during the presentation, I noticed that it said ECG up on the screen. Maybe it does both. I don't know.
Whatever it is, that's good for you.
I don't work for Apple. I'm nothing but a humble podcaster. But of course, also too, they talked about how they have a larger screen. I think they said it was like 30% larger, which if you think about the size of the Apple Watch, it's it's maybe like a few centimeters larger or something like that. I don't even know if it's centimeters, maybe a few millimeters.
Millimeters, yeah.
Yeah. But hey, I'll take it. You know, if there's more real estate, I'm all about more real estate. Like I don't want something that's like practical joke big, but something that like, you know, if you have an easier time being able to see something, especially something that's on your wrist, I'm definitely all for. So they talked about too how the battery life lasts 18 hours. That's perfect. I mean, just you wear it during the day before you go to bed at night, just put it on the charger and you don't have to really worry too much about it at all.
Unless you fall down and knock yourself out and don't have a full charge and the battery life just...
In the middle of the Mojave Desert?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how are you going to charge your battery if you're unconscious?
You wake up, you're like Rumpelstiltskin or something. Like you like have this huge beard. You're like, how long have I been out? And how is I'm still alive? No food or water for months.
Been taken care of by the ants. They've been feeding you.
Wait, who was? Which story was it that where? Gulliver's Travels, I think it was. Wasn't Gulliver's Travels the one where like the dude was like a giant in this land of like little tiny
people, micro
machine people, and they tied him down. And, yeah.
No, the watch was definitely cool. I mean, that was probably one of the most exciting things of the show is that they're definitely going towards a more health conscious route with the watch, and I think that's awesome because if you think about the other stuff the watch can do, it's kind of okay, fine, my phone does it too, as well. Like text messages, my phone does it. GPS, my phone does it. Pictures, my phone does it. Music and sound, my phone does it. So it's more like an extension of the phone anyway.
Yeah.
Even, you know, talking on your, I mean, a lot of that stuff, I'm not going to use the watch for. But if I can get a version of the watch that's mainly for health and fitness, I'm all for it. The one thing they have to look out for is like you said, the real estate. A big, gaudy digital smartwatch on your wrist is going to look terrible. It's going to look atrocious.
Have you seen the picture that's floating around of like a dude who like duct taped an iPhone to his wrist and called it the Apple Watch, and he's looking at it and it's like this huge monstrosity?
I don't doubt it. I mean, there's been people who've like duct taped or cut up their dashboards in their cars just so they could use an iPad in there, and it looks awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't doubt it, but at least they're trying to make the straps better looking because I've seen lots of folks come through the store with these Apple Watches and they don't look
because
that great.
If you recall, like they have different classes of the Apple Watch. Like you have the one that's basically for the masses. Those are the ones that range between probably $300 to $500. But then you have another class, a second class, where now you're getting into thousands of dollars. It goes from like $1,000 to maybe $2,000 or $3,000,
but it all does the same thing.
It all does the same thing, but it's all in the materials. Like the casing of the Apple Watch itself is of a different material. The watch band, that sort of thing. And then there's like the third class, which is like ridiculous. Like it's like solid gold or something. is clearly for the very wealthy and celebrities and stuff.
They still got a big gaudy black screen on it that's covering most of your wrists. So, I mean, yeah, the underside of it's 24 karat. And I'm like, all right, cool. But so a lot of the graphic stuff that they have on there is awesome. They just got to be really battery conscious. I still want them to bring in, both on the phone and the watch, some sort of way to use light as a power source to either charge the phone and the watch, or at least slow the battery drain down. I mean, if calculators can do it, and of course calculators have, these big bunk, 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 like three little panels on them. But I mean, this is 2018, almost 2019. There's a way to figure it out to at least make it be less of a draw. Because if I fall down and no one finds me, or I'm trying to monitor this or that, my watch runs out of juice because, I only got to charge it for so many amount of hours, and the whole thing's useless. Well, and see, Steve just brought up a nice to have kind of thing, like for the future, is that if perhaps they could find a way to incorporate some kind of solar power paneling of sorts, maybe on the face of the watch or something that plays nice with all the touch sensors and everything else they have in there. That makes a lot of sense, because most of the time you're really not on your watch. I mean, you're not just sitting there constantly using it and looking at it and everything else, which means that more often than not, you're going to be kind of in areas where it can get additional charging from the sunlight. Right. I think that that's a good idea. Thank you, Russ.
You're welcome, Steve. And I do think too that you brought up another good not observation, but just something I forgot to mention, which is that they are starting to have a bit more fun with the production value of the Apple Watches themselves, where you have certain types of looping animations that can occur on the watch face, which is very nice. If you recall, when they first launched the Apple Watch platform, they teased it. It was a little bit of false advertising, where like you saw like some butterfly flapping its wings on there, or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was, but my understanding is that those animations actually did not exist on the phone. Like, you could have a static picture of something on there, but it wasn't an actual motion graphics or video animation that's going on there, which makes sense because when the first one came out, you didn't have enough processing power to be able to handle something like that. And I think over time they have been able to make that a reality. One of the things that I thought was surprisingly absent from the show overall, and I want to we'll get into the iPhone here in a minute, but one of the things I found that was not present at all was Apple's charging pad.
I don't know what happened. They were supposed to release that thing a while ago.
Yeah, like I think last year was when they debuted it alongside the iPhone 10, and there was nothing that was shown at all. And I did some research, and it's still not released yet, which is crazy because there are several third-party versions of the charging pads that have been released, do work. And so I'm just kind of surprised, just because when they had initially revealed that you could have like up to 3 devices or something all charging on the pad at one time, which was great, obviously, because if you have a spouse or kids or whatever and you have multiple devices, it's nice just to be able to like plop a bunch of those things on there. But yeah, it's kind of weird how like for whatever reason it was just was not there at all.
I guess a charging pad's a charging pad. Maybe they were going to charge too much for it, and there was plenty of cheaper options that worked perfectly fine, and so they just maybe abandoned it. I don't know.
I have no idea. I hope that they still come out with it, just because I don't know. I'm a purist in the sense I like to be able to try and maintain all the peripherals and accessories under the same umbrella of the first party developer, so to speak, instead of having all these like random parts. They're just kind of like, well, the design doesn't really gel, and there might be some compatibility issues or whatever, but I think it's something like a charging pad, though. I think the technology itself is universal, so I don't think you're going to have as much of an issue in that department. Now, moving on to the iPhone. Now, of course, they showed off the iPhone XS, the iPhone XS Max, and the iPhone XR. And with that, of course, with the Max, it has a 6.5-inch display, which is nice. Also, the display itself is OLED, or is it OLED, or is OLED? You
say one and the same, yeah.
Okay. course, as you mentioned earlier, the A12 Bionic is now the
neural or A12 neural, whatever.
Yeah, fastest processor ever. Like the word ever was
ever
was used quite a bit in the program. One of the other things that was interesting was that they introduced machine learning. I'm nervously curious about that sort of thing. It's just bizarre just knowing that there's technology that is rampantly obsessing over just what my habits are and who I am, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I'm curious to see how that will enrich my life when it can anticipate my needs or wants or curiosities, whatever it is. So one of the other features that I thought was very cool was the dynamic bokeh, which for those of you who are not familiar with what bokeh is, it is a type of photography where you can do a shallow depth of field. Normally this is achieved by certain lenses that you can use where you get a very shallow depth of field. It makes everything in the background kind of more of a rounded shape. And so you get kind of this bokeh effect that goes around, like especially like for portraits, for example, you see someone's face and they're all like super sharp and everything else. And then depending on what your f-stop is and that sort of thing, then you can get this really like buttery, rounded, bokeh, blurred background kind of thing. So what's interesting is that Apple has actually through software been able to replicate that same effect. And what's crazy is that you can take a picture of anything and then be able to on the fly adjust the bokeh effect, or basically just you're essentially adjusting the depth of field using just a little slider on your phone. And judging from what we saw, I mean, it looked pretty darn good. I was very impressed by that. And so I do applaud Apple for really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with photography on their phones, just because it's not a dedicated camera. You know, I'm used to shooting with Canon products and having like some just crazy expensive lenses be able to do the job of what they're simulating on their phone. I mean, I always like how they're constantly trying to make the picture taking process as good as they can possibly make it. And especially for someone like myself, I mean, I currently have an iPhone 6 Plus. I remember when I first bought the 6 Plus, I was really impressed with the capabilities of the camera in there. I really like what kind of results I could get from it, because I think before I had the 6, I think the one phone I had before that was just the 4. I had the iPhone 4, which again, they had cycles of like the 4S and then the 5 and then the 5S and then the 6. And that's when I made my, my update or upgrade. But I was pretty excited about that. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I say it every year. 3 features you can always count on with every new phone, not just the iPhone, are going to be processor, screen quality, and camera. And that's just what we got. We didn't really get anything new. The thing with iPhones is that the main new feature and the driving force for the price is the processor inside. And that's like the main new feature, basically, because if you think about all of the features on every single phone since like the iPhone 5, they change for the new models that come out, but they don't change drastically. It's not like it's a brand new model. It's a model and then the faster version of the previous model. New model, faster version of that model, and so on and so forth. But because Apple controls everything in-house, it minimizes the time they go, okay, for Snapdragon, for example. Snapdragon makes a bunch of chips for the Google phones, for the Android phones, but they got to ship the chips here and there and everywhere. And so Samsung's got to get it and match it with their software. HTC's got to get it, match it with their software. Sony, LG, Huawei, a lot of these guys got to match with their software. So they're building the software around the chip instead of both the software and the chip being manufactured and tested at the same time at the same facility. So Apple's chips in that regard are like twice ahead of anything else that's on the market. And so it can do a lot more, but you have the chip that's really capable. And then you have just like these features that have been out for 2 or 3 years. They've been perfected now, but that's nothing new. So, I mean, I'm conflicted with it because nothing in there was wow inspiring. Nothing last year was wow. I mean, I think the biggest feature last time was the animojis.
Well, yeah, you had the emojis. You also had, just the wireless charging I thought was cool. Just the idea that you could have a wireless charging pad. You just set your phone down, have it charged, pick it back
but
up.
that's been out for 2 or 3 years. That's nothing new.
The face unlocking system I thought was
for 2
cool.
or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and that's pretty typical of Apple anyway. They're always kind of the last to the party with their features, but there's a reason for that, and it's because they really want to make sure that their product is as robust as possible. Like I have found in my experience that those types of features are oftentimes the best experience on the Apple product as opposed to another product like HTC that was first to market with that particular feature, but it's kind of janky. It's not very stable. Anyway, what are you going to say?
So Apple is now that, but they haven't always been that. They were the first one to come out with this brand new phone with a touchscreen on it, and everyone else had to catch up.
Right.
And when they were catching up, it was just this huddled mass of random plastics that worked, but it wasn't nearly as good.
Yeah.
But we crossed a threshold like right after kind of the 5S in a way where we got a bigger screen size, we got a redesign, but that's when the features slowly started to kind of minimize and drop off. Yeah, everything is user-friendly and it's buttery smooth to work and operate. It takes a lot of the thinking power of how do I do this? How do I get back there again?
Right.
Like you have to figure out a lot of the Androids. But it also takes away a lot of the excitement because they're not the first to bring out Face ID. They're not the first to go tap to wake. They're not the first to bring out wireless charging. So when they come out and they say it, like, hey, we now have this, it's like, okay, cool. Apple has it. Now it must work really, really good. Same thing with OLED.
Yeah.
I mean, Samsung's had it for a long time. Same thing with like stereo speakers. HTC, no one has matched HTC speakers. And that's one of the main drivers of the phone. So Apple's adopting all this other stuff and saying in the show, hey, now we have it.
Yeah, they've always been like that. Yeah.
Now we have it is not a very good selling point. Now we have it is, okay, cool. I can get that now on an iPhone.
Right.
But it's nothing to go, oh my gosh, we have to go and buy it. So, and that's for me as a consumer, it's hard for me to come up with the amount of money that they want with these phones to go out and purchase it. I mean, what I use the phone with is pretty much what the average user of the phone is going to use it for.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are going to use bokeh for every single shot.
Right.
They're going to take a shot because that's what's happening, or they're going to take a selfie and they're not going to go through their 3,000 pictures and use all the software that they could tailor the shot up.
Yeah, a feature like that is going to be more for photography enthusiasts.
Right. And even with the processing power for the apps that are on the market right now, if you launch an app at the same time on like my 6S, and then you launch it on the 10S, yeah, mine's going to be slower, but it's not like it's going to take 5 minutes to launch an app and this is going to launch it in 1 second. It's going to be within 5 seconds of each other.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about eons of difference. However, price-wise, we are talking about quite a difference. And I was looking through all the pricing. The highest one, I think it was the S Max, is nearly $1,500 for the highest memory. I mean, that's insane. I mean, and with the data plans nowadays with AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, whatever, where you have to finance the phone, that's an extra $65 a month on top of your talk text data plan. And if you're in a family where you're paying for multiple phones, that's an expensive bill if you're getting all those phones for everybody. I mean, that's like you're buying a game every single month. Literally, you're paying $60 just for the finance charge of the phone.
Yeah, I was looking at the price plans of that. I saw that I think the price that they had on there was $48. $48 and something cents was
for the one that you wanted.
For the big one, the 10S Max.
That was for the lowest memory one.
No, that was for the 512.
Because I looked at it just before I got here.
Excuse me.
Oh, that was great. Right in the microphone.
Sorry, that piece of cashew all of a sudden decided to make a break for it into my windpipe. No, because the reason why I say that, I have to check it out again, but I ended up ordering a couple of the iPhone XS Maxes last night. We're in the market to be able to upgrade since both my wife and I have the 6 Plus, and our phones are just going down the tubes currently. Like they freeze and they're being slow and all this kind of stuff. And so we just think, okay, it's time to be able to make the upgrade. So I remember because we chose the 512 gig hard drive, and I remember seeing on there it was like it was going to add another $48 and something cents to my bill.
I would double check because the XS pricing for the lowest memory, because I wrote it down before I got here, was the full retail on it. If you're not going to finance it, is $1,000, $999,
right? Which
breaks down to $49 a month. If you're going for the highest memory one, it's $1,349 which breaks down to $65 a month. Now, the XS Max is basically $100 more than that.
Okay.
So you might want to double check. But I mean, yeah, are you getting a pretty good phone? Yeah, I mean, you're getting, at what the best that Apple has to offer. However, what you're going to be using it for versus the average consumer is going to be using it for, I mean, they're just going to be, playing a game every once in a while, ordering Starbucks coffee.
Right.
I mean, where do you draw the line? And I think dealing with, consumers as often as I have, there's a real, what do I pay versus what do I get? Price to value. And if you compare, which I suggest everybody do before they even make a purchase, if you go through Apple's website and compare the phones, they'll give you the pricing and give you exactly what the features are.
Yeah, I'm looking at, it says your payment schedule will be, I have a number of payments. I have 30 payments. And it says the amount of payment is $48.34. And the total sale of the phone was $1,449.99.
$1,449.
$1,449, correct? Yeah, it says the description of wireless communications device is an Apple iPhone XS Max with 512 gigabytes.
Gotcha. Yeah, the AT&T might be giving you somewhat of a discount for.
Going through them?
For going through them, yeah. Because I just checked Apple's website, and yeah, anyone can go to the link and check it out.
Gotcha. One of the other things I forgot to mention, too, was that they were talking about this whole dual SIM thing.
Yep.
Enlighten us.
So basically, it's not a big marketed... There's not a ton of people who need two SIMs, but I have come across people when I was selling the phones that say, okay, I'm a pilot. I fly, from here to there, and sometimes I have to stay there for 2 weeks to 2 months, depending on what the job is. And I can't, I'm not going to buy an international phone plan because those are crazy expensive. Even when I go up to Canada, for crying out loud, it's like, okay, yeah, buy this or else it's going to be, $10 for 2 megabytes. I'm like,
right.
What? So yeah, the international plans are insane, but no one wants to have a phone contract for a location they're only going to spend 2 months out of the year.
Right.
So what do? Well, instead of spending all the money on the contracts and the new phone, they'll have a dual SIM. So one SIM works here, one SIM works there, and they can kind of alternate, or they can use both at the same time. They can be two different numbers. They don't have to be your number. So that's basically how they get across that. I think Apple is trying to do away with the SIM altogether because they can't really go any smaller.
Right.
I mean, it's a nano SIM. It's hard to get it, that SIM card in there as it is right now. So they can't get much smaller.
Well, and I thought that they did away with SIM cards.
Nope.
Overall, in terms of like for instance, when I get my new iPhone in the mail, I'm assuming I just plug it into iTunes and all of my information gets transferred and activated onto this new phone. All
your information will get transferred, but the SIM card is the key to use it on the network.
Because I remember like the older phones, I'd have to go to the store and then they'd have to like pull apart the phone and get the SIM card out and put that SIM card into the new phone. But I don't think they do that anymore, right?
They still do. Depending. Because,
for the iPhone.
Right. Because a lot of the iPhones come, some of them, depending on the store you go to, if you're go to direct AT&T, then typically the phone is going to come with the new SIM in it, but you could still take that SIM out. For example, my phone, I just took the SIM out of my 5S. I put it right in this one. It worked just fine. I just had to transfer my pictures and songs and whatever and whatnot over. But it was still, the little door came out, SIM card went in.
Really?
Yep.
I wonder if my phone, I don't remember if mine.
Sure does. It's right there on the side.
Is that it right there?
Uh-huh.
Interessante.
Yeah. Matter of fact, with the sevens, that was the last phone, the generation phone that I sold. They actually came with a little Actually, the phones before then too, but they came with a little popper, SIM popper, that little tool.
Yeah.
Open the thing up. Yep.
So I'm wondering if I'm going to have to do it with this, where I have to pop out the SIM card out of this and put it into the 10, or if I can just do everything completely through Apple's servers.
You're definitely gonna have to pop out unless, well, here's the thing. If they give you a new SIM, like if SIM cards have come up in quality and speed since you've got that phone, then yeah, they're probably gonna have to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna basically pop your SIM out and put it in the other phone. It means no, I could do it for you.
Oh, thank you. That's very generous.
Yeah, thanks.
I also ordered myself an Apple Watch.
Nice.
It's me the first one, but I figured that the Series 4 is the perfect opportunity to be able to come in. They have enough of the gadgetry and the performance upgrades and whatnot. I intentionally avoided the Series 1 just because that was the first time that they had come out the gate. And then even the ones that came out afterwards, I was like, okay, that's better. They're introducing more features that I think are cool, but it's not quite there yet. I feel like this is like the perfect opportunity to be able to do it. So, and of course, all my old school traditional watches need to have their batteries replaced because they're all dead. So I was thinking, well, especially like going back to the health thing. I tend to have more high blood pressure. And so I for one would like to be able to keep track of that. Also too, my day job has a program in place where they want to encourage employees to walk. And there's like a step tracker app that's there, and you can apply that to your Apple Watch. And of course, they have like a monetary incentive that's in place as well. So if you're able to make certain goals that they have there, then you can make extra coin at the end of the year or whatever it is. And so that's one of the bummers, is that because I don't have that, I have to keep my work phone on me in order to try and achieve those steps, versus like just having something on my wrist that's just always on and be able to work towards that. So in a weird way, I'll be able to make that money back, Steve.
It just dawned on me while you were talking there, when I was looking.
Did it dawn on you, or did it sunset on you?
No, it dawned on me, Russ.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, on the Apple's website, it was giving me a 24-month option, not a 30-month option.
Oh, for the 65
Correct.
thingy.
Yeah. So if you shorten the amount, if you shorten the amount of time when you're financing something, then your payments are higher. Obviously, either way, it's going to equal out to the same MSRP price.
Gotcha.
What'd you think of the XR?
So the XR was a little confusing for me.
Was it, Russ?
Just because in the past they had wasn't it like the 5C?
The 5C
or 6C?
So in the past they had, so when the 5S was out, they brought out the 5C, which is essentially...
It's like a cheaper version of the phone, right?
It was the same exact thing as the 5. It was essentially the 5 with a little bit better battery in it, with a plastic colored fun background. That was it.
So all the guts were exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then you had the 5S, which was the faster version, had the thumbprint, unlock and the better camera and whatever and whatnot. Essentially, the 5C was the exact same thing as the 5.
Okay.
Now, the SE was an awesome phone because that one was essentially the 6S within the 5S chassis. And with a flushed camera on it. So, I mean, it could pretty much do everything that the 6S could do. Better battery, small, throw it in your pocket. And there's still a market for folks who are like, I don't need that big of a phone. I just want to throw it in my pocket and be good, AKA senior citizens. So, I mean, that phone still sold quite a bit. So, I'm surprised they didn't mention any kind of new.
Yeah, the XR thing was a little confusing for me because as they were talking about what was inside the XR, I mean, it seemed like all the same guts of the 10S was in the XR, except for like it doesn't have as much of a robust camera. You could tell that. But yeah, they had different colors to it and that sort of thing. I didn't think one way or the other. I'm always for like kind of like the premium best of the best kind of thing. So I want the largest screen and I want the stereo sound. I don't know if the XR had the stereo or not.
Yeah,
I imagine it does.
The XR, I was looking through the comparison.
I like the letter though.
I knew you would. Mm-hmm. So the XR basically has features from the 7 all the way up into the 10S, depending on what it is. Like you were just talking about the camera. The camera is the 7 camera, with the new A12 neural chip. And with that, they can achieve things like the bokeh, for example, but it still has its same megapixels. Like it does pretty much the same thing. Now, there's no dual lens on it, and therefore there's no telephoto zooming or anything like that. So the camera, yes, it's still very, very good. It's not, but like there's some stuff that it cannot do.
Yeah.
Now, it has the good processor, and it still has a very good battery. And matter of fact, with the battery it does have, it can utilize the energy of the battery better because it's not OLED. It's the liquid retina, which is slightly better than what they had on the 7. It's like 100 difference on contrast, basically. I was looking through it. One was like 1,400 to 1. I think this one's like 1,500 to 1. But the XS is like 1,000,000 to 1. So, yeah, the screen is not as good. It's still a great phone, and at the price point, I think it's like $750 or $850.
Yeah, I think it's $750. Yeah.
So I mean, for that, you still get quite a big screen. I think it's like 6.1 inch. So there's a lot you get with it. So I mean, I think for the average person, the XR might be the better deal because you're getting, especially from what you're upgrading from. If you have a 7, is it worth upgrading? Maybe. If you have a 6, I would say definitely.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have twice the cash for an XS or just 10S, excuse me.
And I say for my wife and I, we are just in that state of just being in the market to upgrade, where it's been 4 years since we upgraded our phones. And so it's like, okay, yeah, we're kind of in that cycle of wanting to do that. And so I'm looking forward to having that be delivered. But I am curious to see what Apple has in store with their, I don't know if they're going to call it the iPhone 11. I imagine that's probably what it's just going to be. But I'm curious to see like if they're going to have any kind of other ginormous kind of change ups with how they go about doing their phone interactions and human interaction stuff. So did you have any concluding thoughts about the show?
Well, not necessarily about the way the show was. I would really like to see them still come out with some better features with the phone. I think they need to at this point because everybody was excited, but no one was amped. There wasn't like some standing ovation.
You had that one person who was really the quick to clap.
Yeah.
And get everyone else clapping in the auditorium.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, Apple basically, they did what they did best, which is come out with a new phone that's going to be very dependable and with the features that pretty much the average consumer wants.
Yeah.
But nothing that's groundbreaking.
Right.
I'm still thinking of getting a 7 myself because the features that has compared to what I have and the price point it is, I mean, I can get double the memory, a better battery, a better screen, water resistance, able to image stabilization for $550.
There you go.
So, I mean, all that stuff, which is almost everything better than my phone. For an upgrade,
which one do you have?
I have the 6S.
6S, yeah.
So that's at least like 30% better than the phone I have. And this one's starting to kind of show its age a little bit. Definitely needs a new battery. And, Russ, I will tell you, the other viewers.
Viewers or listeners?
Well, actually both, because we're on YouTube.
Well, they can't see us.
Well, they can see the background. They know they're viewing it. So, so you can, depending on the quality of your phone, like if you kept it up and there's no scuffs, scratches, or any imperfections that you're trying to hide, you can trade in the device to either AT&T, Verizon, whatnot, and or even Apple, and they can apply that credit to the new phone.
Yeah, I looked at that for mine because I was thinking, let me just see what the $50.
Yeah, mine was $100.
I'm like, are you serious? $50 for a 6 Plus? No, I'm going to hold on to it because actually I could turn it into like a bona fide iPod.
Yeah, no, I might do the same. I'm not sure. They give me $100 for mine, which means it'd be $450 instead of $550 for an upgrade. Which I mean, that's a deal.
Yeah,
But I would be the one since I like my plan. There's nothing I need to change. I have like this post-employee AT&T plan. I don't want to get rid of it. And I know if I if I have to go through AT&T to get it, they're going to like totally cancel it. So I have to spend that amount of money up front. Kabam!
I have to share a story with you. So while I was going through the process of purchasing this phone, I did it through AT&T because they're the carrier that we use.
Right.
And they have a promotion going where if you were to buy 2 of the iPhone 10s, that they would give you $700 off the second phone, which I'm like, hey, I'll take that. That's a good deal. Well, their whole setup was that you had to have the other person like come onto your account.
It's a brand new line. Yeah.
And by doing so, they would have to forfeit their phone number. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's a dinosaur way of how you do business in this day and age.
That's been how it's been going for a long time.
They have got to, I even tweeted. I tweeted at AT&T about this and was like, hey, piece of advice. If you're going to offer some kind of deal, make sure that like your pre-existing customers have a way to be able to exercise that deal, because I mean, who doesn't want to be like empowered as a customer to be able to take advantage of those deals that come across? And it's not rocket science. If you have 2 people that are both customers of AT&T, they have their own profile pages set up and stuff, just have a checkmark box in your profile that states that you have a spouse, connect to spouse, for instance. Check mark it, then fill in the necessary information like the person's name, their phone number, any kind of pertinent information that helps to link those 2 accounts together. And then it satisfies that requirement, because then you have 2 people who are together. They get to maintain their phone number, and then you get the deal. And then I walk away as a happy customer, as opposed to this like extinct, out of date, completely convoluted approach to this sort of thing. And there's just, in this day and age, there is no excuse for that, especially considering how everybody's on a cell phone these days. You don't have, like, the landline thing is becoming more of a rarity. So it makes no sense for anyone to have to change their phone number and go through the agony of having to let everybody know that their number is different, and they have to memorize that number. I mean, that's an inconvenience.
I'll let you in on the secret, Russ.
Oh, please do, Steve.
They basically, so AT&T, they get paid by adding lines. They don't get paid by upgrades. So they don't make any money. Like before the whole financing thing came out, which was right when the 6 was dropped, they were giving you an upgrade for adding a 2-year contract with them. So no ands, ifs, or buts. You had to pay AT&T for 2 years your data plan, which is how they made up the cost for discounting the phone from $600 down to $200. So then everybody got upset, was like, I hate contracts. Contracts are a 4-letter word.
Yeah,
so they said, fine, we won't put you in a contract anymore. We'll let you finance the phone, which you can get a new phone anytime you want. You have to there's certain rules and regulations you have to follow, but we'll go ahead and do that. So they still need to make up the difference. AT&T and partly Verizon and Sprint get paid on adding new lines, because in a sense it's new numbers that they can charge onto your plan. So an upgrade doesn't count because those are already existing. That's not new. New is when I'm just born and I want to use a phone, but I don't have a job, and so I do have a job, by the way. And so, like, or for example, I guess the better example would be your daughter.
Job is to annoy the crap out of me. Go ahead, bud.
I'm gonna poke you. Anyway, so when your daughter gets to like junior high, you're gonna want her to have some sort of phone. You can't just hand her a phone and go, here you go. It's either got to be a prepaid phone, or it's going to be added on to your monthly bill. If it's added on to your monthly bill, they have to assign a number. That's an add-a-line.
Okay.
So they're going to make all that money up in the whole entire plan for as long as she owns that phone and is paying on that plan. That's how they're going to make up the difference. So you and your wife upgrade, and you guys have already been paying AT&T for your plan for the longest time. They make no new money on you upgrading, which is why they're trying to make it up with the financing. So if I go, I pay AT&T and you pay AT&T, I just want to be part of his plan. Can we get a new? They're going to be like, no. You have to add the line. And the second part of that is with the iPads, because a lot of times their sales will be, get a free tablet. Get a free.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. You have to add that to your data plan. They don't assign a phone number to it, even though hardly anybody is ever going to use their iPad to call out. They'll still use a phone number to link it to the data plan that they're providing. The sticker, so people go, okay, I get a free iPad. Cool, a win for me. The thing is, in the long run, you're going to pay for that iPad and a lot more because it's attached to your plan, and you're paying that extra like $40 or whatever it is every single month for however many years.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody uses their data plan for their iPad. They use it on their home Wi-Fi system, so it's just money that's coming back to AT&T.
I see.
So I get it. it's the business plan they have. They have to make money. They have to stay in business, whatever. But the thing that they need to do is they're not telling everybody right up front. It's not very crystal clear. People get in, they see the savings, they see the dollar amount, they see free, whatever it is, and they just want to act on it. Well, that's what happens.
Well, thank you for that. It's very educational.
Educational.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Make sure you tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm for exclusive and early access to the show. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can listen to our podcast on TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud.com/Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time, which we didn't do this past week because we had to record our Apple Patreon bonus episode of just giving our as I said earlier, real-time reactions.
Blame Apple for that.
We'll see you next week.